I still see people coming, but I guess we can start and then everyone can join. First of all, hello everyone and thank you for coming. I know it's a hard choice. I've checked the program and it's like really amazing one. So yeah, thank you for choosing this track. My name is Valerie and I'm product marketing manager at JetBrains. I'm not sure if everyone knows JetBrains, but we are the company who creates products for developers and development teams. We are mostly focused on different IDEs for different technologies, but we also have a set of like server tools for the whole team, like TeamCity for continuous integration, UTrack for issue tracking, and Agile project management, and UpSource for code review. We also have our own language, Kotlin. Probably have heard about it. And of course, yeah, we have a set of various IDs for like various technologies. But before I start talking about like how we work at JetBrains and how we create all these products, I want to tell you that, of course, there are people behind these tools. There are people and teams, and they are all like individuals, and they're all really different and special. I want to ask you some questions. Who are the developers here? How many developers do we have? Oh, okay, a lot of developers, that's cool. We love talking to developers, but yeah. And how many of you practicing Agile in any way? Okay, almost everyone. And who is satisfied with your current process? Who thinks that everything goes well? Okay, 2, 3, 4 people. Okay, and who wants to like change something or thinks that something goes really, really wrong and we're not really agile? Okay, more people. That's good. That's good. I hope I will help you to answer the questions that you have and probably get some ideas of how you can improve, or maybe you'll get the idea that you don't need to improve anything, which is also great. But before I start making some examples, I want to tell you one story. I want to introduce you to Boris Lager. He's an author of several Agile books. He's the founder of the consulting agency in Germany, and he's just a great guy. We met him at some Agile conference. It was like a long time ago, and at that time we first introduced the concept of Agile to our product, UTrack. I'm from UTrack, and that was the initial version of our Agile vision. And so we took it to the conference and we desperately wanted to get a feedback. So we wanted some mindsetters to come to us and say that, okay, this is right, this is how Agile should work. Like if it's a Scrum, then you do it this way. And well, this is not right. Should be done in some other way. So we tried to talk to different people, but we couldn't get any feedback like that. So Boris was our hope in this way. But when he came to us, he started to ask like the questions like how we work at JetBrains. Not about UTrack, but generally about different teams. For example, how IntelliJ is built, how, I don't know, TeamCity is built, PHP Storm, and other things. And we didn't have answers to these questions. We just said that like, oh, we have a kind of anarchy. We don't have any process. So someone comes with the idea, developer, then he goes and creates this feature, then he shows it to the team, gets the feedback, well, they like it gets to production, or they don't like it, they just go and, fix it, and it may get to production or never get to production, something like that. So it's like the freedom and anarchy and no process. So we talked to him for like several hours, and at the end he said that, you know what, JetBrains is one of the most agile companies I've ever seen, but surprisingly you don't have any clue about that. And this is not the statement to try to tell you like how agile we are or how good we are, but that's the thing that lead to another understanding of the whole agile thing to us. So this is the way we started to think about that every team is unique, every process is unique. And when you are creating a tool, like you should be focusing on supporting the way like different people work, and not to tell them how they should work, and not to limit anything, and not to limit their freedom in any way. And now I'm going to show you some examples of how we implemented further our way, our vision of following Agile and implementing it for like different teams. I'm going to start with the Utrecht team. Like this is my team, and we're about 25 people, so that's pretty big team. But here, like all the members of the team. So we have developers, of course, we have QA testers, we have support engineers, we have technical writers, and we have product marketing managers. So like the team is like the full stack. So everything we need, everyone we need is inside the team and is the part of the team. And we are following Scrum in some way. So it's like the Scrum-like process. And I'm going to tell you why. Like we have some special tricks that we are adding during the time, and I'll tell you how it works for us. But before we start thinking about like implementing some rules and some processes, we try to focus on our goals. So about a year ago, we decided to move to continuous delivery. It was pretty hard because this is like a server tool, and before we used to have like one major release per year. We also had some minor releases, of course, we had bug fixes, but generally the development of some huge features took a while. And that was a problem because we desperately wanted to get feedback on as early as possible. First of all, we get it inside the company because everyone is using Utrecht, I mean the whole company. And then we wanted to let our external users to touch like whatever we do as fast as possible. So yeah, we wanted to switch to continuous delivery. And the other good thing about that is that like we could do this because we have two options. We have standalone server and we have a cloud. And using the cloud, we can deliver it like really fast. So we can, I don't know, upgrade it like every day or whatever we want. In order to achieve this goal, we needed to speed up our development process, of course. And we also needed to improve the code quality. But it's code quality not in terms that developers, they were writing like bad code, and now we want them to write a good code. No, it's not about that. It's more about like our test coverage and about our testing phase in general. Because when you have like shorter release phases, you don't have that much time for testing, of course. And the last thing is that we wanted to involve all the team members, so everyone. That's basically because we don't have any like really ahead planning, we don't have any documentation, and everyone is like free to bring their own feedback, their own ideas, so we wanted to share like everything with the whole team. So that's what we came up with. So we have regular sprints, like 2-week sprints, which is like pretty common. At some point, we decided that we want to add the design and testing tasks right to the board. So like we see it. Of course we did it. I mean, we asked designers to review whatever we do. We asked testers to test, but we didn't add it to the board. So we decided to add it. Now it's visible, and the whole team like knows whether we've got the review of designer already or not. And designer knows when she needs to come and check what we are doing. Also, we added a really simple rule that a task cannot take more than 3 days. If it takes more than 3 days, we just split it. And this is really relates to this no estimates concept that we are using. What it means? It means that we only care about the user story, the completed user story that we are doing during the sprint that we deliver. So this is how we build our burn down, and that's what we check. And we don't really care how many tasks it takes to complete this story. So this gives us the freedom to split during the sprint and to add additional tasks just as we want. But not to overload and not to take it too much, we add this rule of 3 days. And just a small remark about this concept. If you want to try it, or I don't know if you're already using it, you probably it's not the best way just to, you know, forget about your estimations and just start using this concept. You need to practice. So we practiced for like about a year. We estimated things, and according to this experience, I can tell that we just got the feeling of how to, you know, how to split our user stories and how to actually create and describe this user story in order to fit to the sprint. So it's just based on our, you know, feeling and our speed and our velocity and stuff like that. Also, at some point, we decided that we want to illustrate our support tasks that requires attention from developers. We have support engineers inside the team, and they're dealing with all the feedback and all the customer problems. But sometimes, and it happens quite often, that this request requires some developer attention. And of course, it was done behind the scene. I mean, these tickets were assigned to developers, and we tried to push them, you know, not to forget about them, but it was pretty hard. So what we decided is that if the ticket is like really critical, we just add it to the board, and it gets to the very, very top swim lane. So we always have it, like we have it for priority support tasks. And this way we don't forget about them, and we give them like additional priority. And it works pretty well for us. Another thing that we have is we have a dedicated project for our backlog. Probably it's not a common case because all our projects in UTrack, I mean, for all the products, we have an open tracker. So everyone can come there and file their bug, feature request, like whatever problem the customers has. But the thing is that it gets like overloaded. So our main public project is about like 60,000 issues right now. And it's pretty hard to manage. So that's why we decided to have some internal project where we're gonna, you know, collect the ideas from the public tracker, get them into user stories, prioritize, and then just take them for sprints. But they are related with the main project, of course. So when we finished the user story, which was related with some problems or requests, we got the links, and of course we close everything and we let the customers know that it's ready, just go and try it. Or we are working on it right now, so like you'll get it pretty soon. And here are some results that we got during like a year of this continuously improving process. So we did 4 major releases. We actually aimed for 6, and I hope that next year we're gonna reach it. But after like 1 major release, this looks pretty good for us. I tried to look at like how good we are at completing all the user stories during the sprint. And I found out that we are completing more than 90%. And remember, we're using this no estimate concept. So again, like we don't really spend much time on, you know, estimating and the whole estimation process. So yeah, this is how it gets. And also, that was about code quality that we wanted to improve. So I've checked that we got 50% less reported bugs compared to the previous year. I know that these metrics are not like absolute, and there are some factors that may influence it, but I mean, you can get some ideas about how the whole thing works from it. And yeah, of course, every team member is involved. We've got the planning where all the team members present. Actually, we've got planning divided into 2 parts. So we've got like the general part where we discuss what we need to do in terms of business logic and what we need to get and how we are going to demo what we're planning. And then we have a technical part where only developer stays, and they're splitting their user stories into the actual tasks. And they're like, you are free to leave if you are not a developer, you are not really interested into that. We also have a daily stand-ups, and everyone is involved there as well. And if you ask like how you can do it with 25 people, like you need to have some rules for that. So our round of like status takes not longer than 20 minutes, and everyone needs to, report during 1 minute. We used to control that with like actual alarm, but I think after a couple of weeks, just everyone got used to that speed, and now it just goes naturally. And after this round, we have a round of some discussions, so everyone is free to raise any discussion, and we just write them down, and then we prioritize them according to the general interest. So if it's interesting to everyone, we just start with that, and if it's like really technical, then we just leave it to the end, and only, those who are interested stays there. So the maximum it may take 1 hour with all the discussions, but normally it takes about like 30-35 minutes, not more. So yeah, and one more great thing that we have, of course, we have demos after each sprint, and I think this is the best thing about all these practices, because we can actually see what we've done during these 2 weeks, and everyone participates there. So as a marketing team, like we know what we're gonna deliver, what we need to describe, what we need to promote. As the technical writers, they know like what they need to document and how everything works. We can do some remarks, ask questions, and maybe get some ideas about what we need to improve. And it gives like the whole team visibility to this process. The next team I want to talk about is our documentation team. These guys, they work for like 2 products, UTrack and Hub. So they have like a lot of things to manage. Of course, they're part of the product team, as I already mentioned, but they have their own set of tasks as well, and things that they need to manage like inside their team. They're working not only documentation, they're helping us with all the text for the UI, because we're not native speakers, so we definitely need some review from them. And also they're helping like marketing team with a lot of learning materials, like they're writing tutorials, creating videos, and stuff like that. So they're pretty busy guys. And again, before we set up the process for them, we check their goals. So their goal, the first goal was to fit into this new continuous delivery process. And when you have like 2 different products with like, close but different release phases, you need to fit there somehow, because the documentation should be ready for like every release. And we cannot wait just for this documentation. Another thing is that they need to collaborate with the whole product team, because again, we don't have any documentation. So yeah. And they wanted to visualize their process for us as well, so we know like what's documented, what is like waiting for documentation, and stuff like that. And this is how they call it Kanban board. This is how it looks like. And I'm gonna tell you about some tricks that they have here. Their sprints correspond to the product version, and it's not limited over the time. So it's just the version of the product, and that's it. They have separate swim lanes for like each product that they are working on, and also for some epic tasks that they are planning to accomplish, like documentation redesigning or restructuring some huge things. They have their own custom set of columns, and because they have like different stages, different from the development team. So yeah, they have, for example, in review, and their final state is published. So when documentation is published, it's done. This in review is pretty interesting state. It means that whatever they write needs to go through review of a developer who's working on this feature, or PMM if it was requested by like marketing team, or someone like who involved into this specific activity or this feature. And just about some results that they get. Everything, all the documentation for this 4 major releases for 2 products were delivered in time, so we are pretty happy with that. They also track the major releases and minor releases simultaneously, and it works well for them again. The process is clear for the whole team, so the developers can check like what's the status of each feature in terms of documentation at any time. And their backlog of the things that they wanted to do apart from the actual documentation is greatly reduced during this year. So they are doing more than just preparing for the releases, and that's good. The next example I have is more of the personal task management. I want to introduce you. This guy is the product marketing manager for IntelliJ IDEA. His name is Andrei, and he's a pretty busy guy because he needs to communicate with his own team first of all, but he also communicates with about 20 different teams, we call them operational. For example, designers, web team, documentation, evangelists, the conferences, and so on and so forth. And he's got a lot of things to manage, so he needs to do the load balance somehow. Basically, that was his goals. As already said, he communicates with a lot of different teams. He needs to track marketing activities from one point, his marketing activities. But from another point, he needs to track the activities and the tasks that he's creating for other teams and other people. And also, it's a nice thing to share knowledge and experience, because we are so separated inside JetBrains. Every product and every team has everything inside that they need, and they have their own process. So for me, the only way to find out what's going on in IntelliJ IDEA and in their marketing is just to go and check what Andrew is doing on his board, and it's pretty easy for me. So this is the way that his board looks like. I cannot say what it is. It's a real mixture of everything. So it's not Scrum, it's not Kanban, it's just something. First of all, he's got tasks from about 20 projects here on one board. He has no sprints and no time limits, so it's just a flow of things that he's working on, and not only him. Also, he has no backlog. He says that everything that's important to me, I just add to the board. Everything that is not that important to me means just it's not that important. So he's got a single column. That's really interesting. He says that he doesn't care how the tasks are moves or flows across different states. He says that as long as it's not done, it's on the board. And he doesn't care in what state it is. So he just keeps tracks of the whole picture. Swimlanes are combined tasks from different projects. So, for example, marketing Swimlane, he's got his own tasks there. That's his activities. Documentation Swimlane, he's got the tasks for technical writers that he's interested in. So that's only things that requires his attention. And for example, from IntelliJ IDEA, he also has some tasks here. These are development features, bugs, something that he's interested in. And he says that when task is completed, it's just removed from the board, and he doesn't care about it anymore. So no columns, no states, just it's here or it's gone. That's his approach. And I've asked him about the results. He's been using this board for about a year, and this process, and he says that it became much easier for him to track the high priority tasks, because he doesn't add everything to the board, and of course he has much more activities, but just something that he needs to focus on is there. And it's easy for him to search for important things because they are always there. And the management of tasks from various projects became much easier for him. And of course, he had a bird's eye view of things that are in progress right now, at any time. The next team is our design team. And these guys, they are not product designers. They are more like marketing designers. So they create our design for our website, our materials, online, offline. They create different banners, different campaigns, t-shirts that they created. And so everything that needs design, we ask these guys to do this. And when they came to us and asked for help to set up their process, they had the following goals. They collaborate with about 20 different products, and every PMM like me just come to them and asks for something. So there is no need in planning, there is no need in backlog, because they don't decide like what they need to do. They have just a due date and a number of customers that constantly want something from them. And another problem that they have, they need to keep the load balance between designers. We have like about I don't know, 10 designers right now, but we used to have this problem that every PMM had her own favorite designer. So whenever I need something, I just go to this person and I continue to, to ask her to do something. And they got pretty tired of that because, yeah, they need to load it somehow. They also need a way to track of continuously incoming tasks, like every day we create something for them. And the only way to prioritize this task for them is just using the due date. Because they cannot say that, oh, I'll create the banner for you and I won't create banner for you because I have no time. They just need to help everyone. And this is how their board looks. I cannot say what it is. I mean, something really strange. They have seasonal sprints, like in the fashion industry. So summer, spring. We decided to go with this structure because it's about the time that requires to accomplish some tasks. Sometimes it can be some advertising campaign or website works, and it might take like several months. And from the other hand, they need the way to like clear their board. So we decided that 3 months is pretty good for them. They have separate swim lanes for each designer. So you can see like how everyone is loaded and what's in which state, and like how the tasks are prioritized. Of course, we have a separate project for designers. So they set up a rule: whenever you need something from us, please file an issue to our project, and please don't just come to us and ask something. New task gets to the board automatically, and we have like the very top swim lane for what we call it uncategorized tasks. So whenever something is created, it just gets to the board. And the tasks are assigned only by team members. That was their rule to help them to load the balance and to avoid this favorite design feature. Again, I've talked to them after a year and asked them about the results. The first thing they said that this managing load balance between designers greatly improved for them. So now they don't have like one person really dying from the amount of tasks and everyone else just, having fun. Also, they've got the visual way to track all the incoming tasks, so they just see them. Yeah, and the process has greatly improved for us. I mean, I'm a product marketing manager, so I'm a customer for them, and I can always go to their board and see like where is my task, who's going to be working on it, and in like which priority it is. And sometimes, of course, I can come and ask like to move something. Like it's absolutely fine, but at least I don't need to come and talk to them personally to get this information. And one more product team that I want to talk about. This is our C-Line and Upcode team. These are our IDE, but basically they have like one team for like both of them. It's not a huge team because this is like the part of IntelliJ IDEA platform, and some things they are getting from the platform, and some features they develop inside like their team. What about like their goals? They needed to plan the scope for the upcoming release because our IDE decided to switch to the model of like, it's not continuous delivery, but they are doing like, but they release more often right now. So they switched to this model like last year, and now they have like 3 major releases during the year. So they need to plan more accurately right now. Again, they wanted to involve all the team members in the process. They wanted to track the load balance on every stage of their development and see how the team is working. And they wanted to visually prioritize their work. And this is how they call it Kanban-like board. It's something like Kanban. Yeah, this is how it looks like. Of course, they have continuous flow, no sprints, because it's more like a Kanban. But again, they have swim lanes. And their swim lanes is just to prioritize tasks. So they have like the general one and they have a priority one. And everything that requires like more attention gets to the top. Yeah, their columns reflect the development stages, and they have limits for all the stages except done. Their WIP limits are mostly based on the number of people that can work on a certain stage. For example, how many people they have as a testers, how many developers they have, and so on and so forth. They have a number of like automatic workflows that we created for their board, and just one example is that when they move the task from one column to another to the next stage, it gets automatically assigned to the person responsible like for this stage. It might be testing or merge or review or develop, but it helps them, I don't know, to automate some things. They have a backlog, which is like prioritized visually, and what they do inside their backlog, they prioritize and add a special task which says that, okay, here's we have a release, so and they put it like somewhere, say in the middle, so everything that is on the top should be included into release, everything that is down are going to the next version. Of course, they can mix and change it, and whatever they feel that like they are not able to, to finish everything, they just move it down. Or if they have more time, they just move it up. So, just some words about their results. Of course, yeah, everyone is involved in the process and is greatly visualized, and they control the workload on every stage. And this is like really convenient for them. But one funny thing that they told me is that it helps them to track the small tasks they need to accomplish for every release, and they kept forget about them. So this way they visualize them and they don't forget about them. So I've shown you like several examples of completely different processes and different goals and different teams. And I've tried to look at some things that are in common for all of them, just to make some conclusion about like general, I don't know, attitude or some philosophy that we have inside the company. So what we see here is that every team sets their own rules, and when they have a freedom to set their own rules, they are committed to follow them. So they don't come from like someone external, and they don't need to obey the rules that they don't like. But wherever you have a freedom to decide, you make a commitment, and that helps a lot. Another really important thing is the responsibility of each team member and self-management. They are really connected. I think that these are the main thing that we have in common across all the teams at JetBrains, because no one actually sets the tasks for like the team or every person inside the team, but everyone needs to be responsible enough and manageable enough to accomplish and to fit into this team and in this process. And that's really important, because I think that just setting up any process without any inside changes just won't help. I mean, that should be a part of your culture, about your team, about your personality, about your attitude. But that's a completely different topic, and yeah, I can stop here for a long time. Then another important thing is that this is a continuous process. So you need to tune your process all the time. And unfortunately, there is no point where you can just stop and say like, I'm done. Everything works, I'm just gonna relax and I don't know, move the tasks, and that's it. Unfortunately, yeah, that's continuous. You try some things, you apply something, you see how it works, then you have a retrospective or any way that you can look at the back and see the results, and then you decide like, okay, it works for us, it works well, but how can we improve it? What else do we want to introduce? What else do we want to try to make it even better? And it happens that at any moment you have something to improve. But when you have some positive results, you already have some ideas about what's working for you. And that also gives you the room for further steps and further improvements. And the last thing I wanted to mention here is about tools. Whenever you choose the tools, it can be anything. So like here, like you have a freedom to decide. Hopefully you have a freedom. But just one important thing. These tools should be customizable enough to fit into your process and not to dictate how you should work. And that's the main thing and the main conclusion that we got out of our experience. Well, thank you for your attention. And we've got just some useful resources. For example, this talk is called Baking Boards, and we have the video blog series, which has like a lot of examples from different teams, and there were way more that I've covered here in this talk. So if you just check on YouTube, on our blog, just by searching for Baking Boards, you'll get these examples. And these are the stories of every team, but it also shows the whole setup, all the rules they're using, like why and how it works for them and how they set up it and all this thing. And also I've written a series of blog posts about how we Scrum in Utrecht team, and that's the series like covering every single activity that we have in a separate blog post. So all the details are there. And you're welcome to check. Thank you. I don't know if we have some questions. They promised me that they're going to be on the screen, but I don't see any.
I would have some question.
Yes, please.
Could you explain some differences between Scrum Ban and just the Scrum sprint view?
Yeah, I can probably get back there. Just a second. But mostly it's about. It's just about combining various practices into like one process. So for example, like why we call it Scrum Ban. They don't have sprints limited in time, but still they have some iteration which is called like version. So it's just not limited from the beginning, but at some point we have a release and it's like it ends. And from the other hand, we have swim lanes, kind of swim lanes like we have in Scrum, but these swim lanes have just different meaning. They're just the way to organize the tasks from one product. So for example, you track documentation, and there we've got everything they need to do for this version for U-track. Another swim lane would have like everything they need to do for hub, for example. So that's just the combining of various practices. Yeah?
In Kanban boards, you mentioned the limit per column. So how you deal if you have a situation where the limit is reached, like, you have like limit of 5 or 6, let's say, and you have like 8 tasks in the column. How you deal, like either you solve it or you try to avoid it or you use it like an indicator and elaborate.
You're absolutely right. Like we, like this team, they use it more like an indicator. So they just visually see that something is wrong on this stage, and then they decide like what to do. For example, when they were just setting up the process, like mostly all of the time they got to this situation. That was because they were trying to find their limits. So sometimes it means that you're reaching this limit because you just have too much and you just need to increase the limit. And sometimes it just tells you that something is wrong on this particular stage and you need to solve it somehow. So just talk to the people who are working on this this particular stage and decide like whether they're getting more that they can do from the previous one or they got some bottleneck. So, but yeah, first of all, that's an indicator.
And how do you calculate the loss that you use in
Uh, honestly, we don't. I mean, our team, we don't calculate it. But of course, you can calculate it based on your previous experience. So if you're asking about like this feature inside you track, we don't have it. But if you just check the reports and checked like things that you were doing historically during each sprint, you can calculate it and get the I don't know, certain amount of tasks that like you accomplish normally or regularly and how fast you are moving. So yeah, we do it in some spiritual way.
You have mentioned that you do not estimate your tasks. So what would happen if like a third of your team would have changed suddenly? And would you start estimating again, or would you just try to keep going without estimation?
Sorry, I haven't heard like what happened to the team.
Just someone left, for example, like a third of the team has left for another project or something, and the whole composition of team has changed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got your question. The thing is that it doesn't happen at JetBrains. I mean, you cannot lose the third of your team. You have like, I don't know how many. We have like 10 or 12 developers. So no, it's not possible. But basically, if I imagine the situation, you are right. It's really tightly connected with the teamwork and like with the general speed and I mean connection and like how we know each other. So it's really based on the personalities. So if this situation happens, I would say that like this team should start to estimate again in order to get this feeling again and get this experience if it's required for the major part of the team. And then, you know, try to introduce this concept again and see if it works. Like if it's not working, then maybe it's just, I mean, not working for you, which is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
And if you have no estimations, you probably have no capacity, no vacations plans, and so on.
In some way. I mean, when you get this feeling, that's again related about how you decompose your user stories and how you write your user stories. So our Scrum Master and basically whoever writes the user stories already have the feeling about like how to decompose things I want to get into this sprint in order to fit. So for example, if it's me as a marketing and I want, you know, to get some feature, I will describe it like in a certain way. Or I will come to our Scrum Master, explain what I want, and she might help me. Like she can say that, okay, like let's decompose it this way. Let's get the back end first and then front end in the next sprint. Or that's a small feature and we can do it like during one sprint. And also we know like how many user stories that are written in a certain way normally fit into the sprint. So we know that we are doing like 3 to 4, and like that's the normal, you know, amount for us, for, you know, our team. And if it's not like a hot vacation time, because normally the hottest vacation time is in summer, then like we know it, and you know we like check how many people are going to be absent, so we're taking less or more, like it depends. But during the year, it's how to say, it's pretty the same. So if you're having like one person on vacation, I mean it's fine, and if it's always like that. So if nothing extreme happens, it just goes as is. If we know that something, for example, this week we had like a yearly planning. We go outside from the city for like 2-3 days, and we just, I don't know, stop working, and we are just having some session talks and blah 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 to define our plans for the next year. So and this way our current sprint is like not 2 weeks, but it's like 3 weeks. So we thought about it in advance, and we just moved. Like we have a demo, for example, today, not the previous Friday, and I'm missing it. So yeah.
You talked about the separation of refinements, where you have one part where maybe everyone takes part to get a common sense of the feature that
Mm-hmm.
and then the second part where only who needs to attend actually attends. How can you make sure that in the first part the business questions are asked, so that in the second session the developers know the business details so that they can refine their technical stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is that I'll tell you how it works. So we start the general part, and our Scrum Master introduces like every user story, and she explains like what needs to be done there. And if it's a user story written not by her, but maybe from some other subsystem owner or from marketing team, she gets this person involved, and like we try to describe all the details, and we also try always to have how to demo criteria. And after this introduction, we ask the questions like, do everyone understand what we need like to do there? And different people, they ask their questions until they got the common vision of like what exactly should we demo. So yeah, and when everyone agreed, we said like, okay, now we understand, yeah. So before technical part, we try to solve like all the logical or business logic part.
And this works well?
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, there might be a specific because we are a product team and product company. So like we decide what to do. We get the input from our customers, from, I don't know, support team, marketing, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like we decide. So developers themselves, and the whole team decides what we are going to do. So for example, if you get some external requirements and you have the feeling that someone might not understand them, that's a little bit different situation. Because yeah, here we've got like only, internal input.
Even the developers have a common understanding of
Yeah.
the actual business case.
Yeah, and they, I can a little bit elaborate if you don't mind on this topic. We've got various subsystems in our product, and there used to be like a code ownership for every subsystem. So say like this is the responsible person for Agile board, and you're responsible for workflow. And it used to be more about code. But now we decided that we want to shift like this model and this vision, and to make a subsystem owner more the person who understands and owns the business logic of this subsystem. So for example, I can be an owner of help desk subsystem, for example. I'm not a developer and I don't write the code, but say I have a vision and I can write user stories and I can control, the whole model and prioritize it and stuff like that. So it helps us. So because everyone is like focused on some smaller part and have, more knowledge about it. More questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.